Did you see what's happening with the iron ore? Since the beginning of this year, price has collapsed from over $140 to under $100 by the middle of March. Welcome to myfinanceteacher.org, where we review precious metals, commodities, cryptos, energy, and much more. So coming back to the collapse in ore prices, according to the news, it's mostly due to falling demand for steel and iron ore in general in China. But there are some interesting positive news coming up more recently. The profits of Chinese industrial firms have increased recently by over 10%. So perhaps we're going to see some sort of a bounce in iron ore prices and, more interestingly, the producers. Talking about those producers, one of the largest iron ore producers in the world, that's VALE, that's going to be a pretty hefty award of over $280 million for a joint project there. And to continue talking about iron ore producers, I do like looking at this chart, which is the ratio of producers to iron ore prices. While Sentiment Trader doesn't actually publish the market sentiment data for iron ore, one way of looking at market sentiment is looking at the ratio of producers to the ore itself. And here usually the lows in this ratio do align with the lows in the metal. For example, going back to, say, the pandemic lows, that's early 2020, there are those pandemic lows on ore price. The next significant low was somewhere around the end of 2021. Here it is on the ore price itself at the end of 2021. Again, we see the alignment of those lows. Next one, again by the second half of 2022. Here's the ore price again dropping down into the second half of 2022. And lastly, mid to second half of last year, 2023. Let's zoom in a little and we see, yes, mid to late last year, iron ore prices did come down a little. So as someone said in the long distant past, you want to buy assets when there's blood on the streets, when the whole market sentiment is down through the floor. Looking at what's happening right now, we see market sentiment has declined again from nearly the top of this yellow area down to nearly reaching this blue area. And yes, there are historically times when this ratio, this sentiment drops all the way down into the green area, but those are rare. We saw one at the pandemic lows, and the one before that was all the way back in 2015, 16, 17, which took place at the end of the previous long-term bear market in most commodities. So dropping down into the green zone isn't very common. Perhaps dropping down into the blue zone might produce a decent enough buying opportunity. Now let's have a look at the price itself. As you know, we do like to look at cycles. Generally over the years, iron ore has been following cycles lasting for around 4 months, although sometimes those can be as short as a couple of months and as long as around half a year. That was back in the first half of 2023. The ongoing cycle is approaching its cycle low. By the way, we have a couple of zigzags here. That's back from when we looked at iron ore together with the members at myfinanceteacher.org a few days ago. Looks like iron ore is following our red dotted scenario, but RSI has already dipped once into oversold area. Perhaps over the next week or two, RSI might create a bit of a positive divergence. That again is a pattern when we see a lower low on price and a higher low on RSI. Usually a positive divergence precedes some sort of a bounce. And zooming out, we see that it's not that often that RSI drops all the way down to around 23, 24. Going all the way back to the pandemic lows, RSI dropped that low only in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and this is the 6th time in basically 4 years. So again, I do believe a bit of a buying opportunity is coming. Trading iron ore itself, if you're not playing with the futures, is somewhat tricky because there aren't really any pure iron ore ETFs unless you go into general commodities. But at myfinanceteacher.org, we found a combination of producers that together do provide you something of a pure iron ore ETF, where that combined average share price of the producers follows the iron ore price pretty closely. Again, for details on that, for details on the interesting iron ore producers, as well as much more, make sure to join us at myfinanceteacher.org. Just scroll down and click this Join Now button. Have a terrific Thursday. Bye bye.